Dear colleagues, dear participants, welcome to the expert discussion on renewable energies organized by the Bulan Institute. We have more than 50 participants who joined from different countries across the globe, which is amazing. Thank you for being with us. So my name is Cholpan Rozobekova. I'm a director of the Bulan Institute. We are based in Geneva. We are a peacebuilding organization and research institute. The global community is facing an urgent need to transition towards sustainable energy sources to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change. Sorry, please, colleagues, mute your microphones. The global community is facing an urgent need to transition towards sustainable energy sources to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change, reduce reliance on fossil fuels, and achieve the sustainable development goals. Countries in the Caucasus and Central Asia regions, including Georgia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia, are rich in renewable energy resources such as solar and wind power. But each country has different barriers, such as limited infrastructure, regulatory constraints, or financing gaps. However, I would like to say highlight that in the last 5 years, some of them widely deployed renewable energy solutions. Meantime, in Europe, Switzerland has witnessed a notable increase in the adoption of solar photovoltaic systems. So solar has really good solar installations, big projects, and even large-scale solar farms in rural areas. So that's why we have an amazing speaker from Switzerland today. So in order to facilitate interstate learning and knowledge transfer, today we are going to discuss energy transition in 3 countries, Switzerland, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan. But before starting our discussion, I would like to present our new climate change and renewable energy program. This expert discussion is being organized as a kickstart event of the new program on climate change and renewable energy at the Bulan Institute. So what are the objectives of our climate change program? So the program has ambitious and important objectives. So first of all, our program aims to promote renewable energy adoption in developing countries and accelerate the transition towards renewable energy resources such as solar and wind power. We also aim to participate in capacity building of local specialists and strengthen the resilience of communities. And the next goal is finally, our climate change program aims to facilitate interstate exchange and learning. So by organizing workshops, seminars like this, the one that we are having today, so we would like to generate knowledge, share experiences, expertise, best practices, and lessons learned. So our program is going to have experts to work with us on the renewable energy transition. So taking this opportunity, we invite energy experts and scholars for cooperation. If you want to become an expert at the Bulan Institute on renewable energy resources, please contact us. So now it's my great honor to start our expert discussion. First, I give the floor to our keynote speaker, to Mr. Gianluca Sambucina from United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, who will be delivering a keynote address today. Mr. Gianluca Sambucina is the secretary of the group of experts on renewable energy within the Sustainable Energy Division at the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe. In 2020, he was acting chief of the joint UNSA Forestry and Timber section. So in general, Mr. Sambucini worked in UNSC about 20 years, taking different roles. Mr. Sambucini, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Orozobekova, and thank you. I would like to thank you, the Bulan Institute, for inviting me to this interesting event. And good morning or good afternoon to all the participants. Today, the discussion is extremely broad, but at the same time also quite narrow if you will look at the specific case of Switzerland, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan. It would be interesting to see how these 3 countries can benefit from the experience that they are having, whether they are quite advanced in the development of renewable energy, or like Switzerland, but also the way that Georgia and Kyrgyzstan are planning to develop the renewable energy sector in the near future. Definitely, I won't touch too many topics that will be considered by the experts that will intervene during the discussion. more in depth in their interventions, based also on the experience on what are the solar and wind prospects in Switzerland, in Georgia, and in Kyrgyzstan. However, I would like to stress the importance of these two renewable energy technologies for strengthening energy security, building the capacity and the resilience and climate change mitigations. And definitely, UNEC has a quite, let's say, long-standing experience. We have a group of experts that was created 10 years ago. We are working in different ways by facilitating also the understanding of data and progress made in the countries, especially in the 17 countries of Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, Central Asia, the Caucasus, and the Russian Federation. We have a regular report, which is the REN 21 UNEC Renewable Energy Status Report. And this is really trying to get the information on the progress made in the UNEC region, and in particular in these 17 countries. Definitely the member state ask UNEC to work because they definitely recognize that renewable energy is a key pillar of the sustainable energy transition strategy, contributing to both energy security and climate change mitigation goals. Then by accelerating, may I ask...
Please mute your microphone.
By accelerating the adoption of renewable energy technology, fostering support policy and
Mr. Ayub, can you unmute yourself?
Societies can achieve a more secure, resilient, and sustainable energy future, while therefore mitigating also the impact of climate change. So basically on climate change, what I would like to point out in general, of course, is how renewable energy can support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. And we are all aware that, I mean, the renewable energy can definitely contribute to reducing the carbon footprint of the energy sector. But at the same time, especially for those countries that are not fossil fuel producers, can help the transition away from fossil fuels. And this is shifting from fossil fuel-based energy sources to renewables is definitely an important step for decreasing the overall emissions intensity of the energy system. Then it represents also an opportunity for the promotion of sustainable development. So renewable energy deployment fosters the sustainable development by creating jobs, stimulating economic growth, and improving access to clean and affordable energy, in particular in developing countries. And then it enhances also the resilience to climate impacts. In fact, in investing in renewable energy infrastructure, enhances the resilience to climate change impacts, such as, of course, the extreme weather events, sea level, and so on. So there is no doubt that the renewable energy can really contribute to climate change mitigation. But in addition to environmental and economic arguments, the role of renewable energy is also important in improving the security of energy supply. So basically, it's important for the diversification of the energy sources, for local and decentralized energy production. It's important also from the aspect of reduce the vulnerability of a country to price volatility. And also it's a way of mitigating the geopolitical risk. Now we have been observing that in the UNEC region and even more in the 17 countries that I mentioned of Eastern and Southeast Europe, the Central Asia and the Caucasus, the solar and wind energy market have been expanded in a very important way between 2017 and 2020. There are countries in the UNEC that have been show high market growth rates with significant market penetration, and they can be qualified as a booming solar market. Others in the region that we are considering today, including Kazakhstan and Armenia, for example, have underdeveloped solar markets, but they are quite in a way of developing quite intensively. And other markets, especially in the European Union, they can be considered under the current circumstances as saturating solar markets. I won't provide too many figures because it's not right now the point of this introduction, but it's but if we look at the also at the situation of the solar energy deployment in the EC region, the average market growth rate between 2017 and 2020 reached the 17.9%. And the share of total electricity generation capacity remained relatively low at 8.3%. If we look at the wind energy deployment in the region in the same period from 2017 to 2020, the annual market growth rate was lower than the solar, and was up to 7.3%. However, in 2020, wind power had a higher median market share in this region that was 11.3% compared to the solar that was 8.3%. So definitely UNEC is supporting all this process and is supporting particularly the transition towards a resilient energy system. And therefore we are working in trying to also to use the experience and the lessons of different countries for having a faster development in achieving this transition to a resilient energy system in the future. And this is what is of course is also happening through specific work, in particular among the countries that we are considering today in Georgia, and I will tell you slightly more in a few seconds. But then why to consider Switzerland? Of course, Switzerland, I think there will be my colleague, who's also the vice chair of the group of experts on renewable energy, Andres Dresenner. He will tell a bit more about the case of Switzerland, but it's important to understand what are the policy support that are used by Switzerland. In particular, there is important to highlight the continued government support through favorable regulations, subsidies, and incentives. But also the technological innovation is a key characteristic of Switzerland, continued advancement in solar panel efficiency, energy storage solutions, and also in wind turbine technologies. This is something that we'll hear pretty soon, but also the grid integration is extremely important. The fact that Switzerland has been investing a lot in enhancing the grid infrastructure and flexibility, this is definitely essential in accommodating a higher share of energy, especially in the electricity production that is coming from solar and wind power. And then what has been crucial in Switzerland is also the public acceptance. Basically, they've been addressing the concern related to the environmental impact, especially in the development of wind farms. Of course, this has been quite delicate. And but by anticipating and by discussing and finding common solution, they were able really to work in order to get public acceptance in the country. So I think it's quite important. We'll hear pretty soon on the situation in Switzerland. In Georgia and Kyrgyzstan, I would say that there is a, we'll hear pretty soon, so I won't go into more details. What we can say is definitely that these countries are more and more committed in all the global processes, especially at we have been seeing at COP29, that many countries of Central Asia and the Caucasus, they realize that even in case they are, of course, among those two sub-regions, there are countries that are producing fossil fuels and having basically the majority of their GDP made by the profit made on exporting fossil fuels. But in other cases, they are depending on the fossil fuels from neighboring countries. But in both cases, they understand the need to anticipate some of the key issues and processes also related to climate change. We have been observing also during the winter in many of these countries, but I mean, in the past years, there's been a trend and they are affecting especially the water availability in many of these countries, and the water management has to take into account the process of climate change that is putting a lot of challenges in these countries. At this point, I think, I mean, I had prepared some figures, and but I won't provide to you. I think it's important just to know that in Central Asia and the Caucasus, there is a broader understanding. We have to work, all the actors working at the international level on renewable energy development, in trying to build in awareness on the importance of renewable energy, and importance in basically for the economy, for the environment, for the sustainable development. And UNEC has been working in different ways. I will just touch a few areas that we are also part of the work plan of the group of experts on renewable energy of the UNEC. Is the work plan 2024 and 2025. So as I mentioned already, first of all, we are working in tracking the progress in the uptake of renewable energy. We had so far 3 editions, the last one in 2022. And it's important not only to track the progress, but also in building a culture of collecting reliable data in these countries. The second one, which is also in common with the Bulan Institute, is also facilitate the exchange of experiences and good practices among countries and among experts and multi-stakeholders. We also facilitate within the countries. We organize so far 10 hard talks, very thematic hard talks. I must say that among the different hard talks, we organize one, for example, in Kazakhstan in order to launch the first round of renewable energy auctions. We organized one in Ukraine for introducing renewable energy within the new legislations. We also have been asked, and we organized 2 hard talks in Georgia. The first one was relating more to targets, and now we are contributing also to another discussion and hard talk that will take place in June in Tbilisi, in order to see how Georgia can establish and launch a dedicated energy efficiency and renewable energy dedicated agency. We also try to understand how to fit all this development of new technologies, in particular wind and solar, but also all the renewable energy technologies, within a future energy resilient system that, of course, needs to see the direction where it is going, but also to make sure that the transition is smooth and it's done in the best way. Other topics that the group of experts is also touching, and I would like to invite all the participants to look at what we do, is also the cross-cutting cooperation. So basically seeing other sectors that are relevant for the renewable energy sector. In particular, there is an important activity that is done in order to consider the water renewable energy nexus. And in this sense, I think that the countries we are considering, they are definitely very much interested in understanding how, as we advance with the development of renewable energy, also the water resources can be properly managed. I think I will stop here. As I said, I won't provide too many figures. We'll be hearing pretty soon about Switzerland, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan. And I would like to thank you again, the Bulan Institute, for allowing us to participate. And I would like to wish to all a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sambucini, for the important remarks, and we highly appreciate and value the work of the UNEC. Thank you for your excellent work. So it's my great honor to start the presentation from the countries. We have esteemed experts from Switzerland, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan. First, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Andreas Dresebner, Vice Chair of the Group of Experts on Renewable Energy at UNEC, and also Director of the Grow Solutions company in Switzerland. He is a green energy and sustainable development specialist. His company Grow Solutions installed dozens of solar and wind projects in Switzerland, Armenia, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, in Russia, and also in big companies such as Coca-Cola. In 2001, Andreas was awarded European Solar Award, and since 2016, he is a president of the Energy Turnaround Cooperative of the Winterthur in Switzerland and board member of the company Solar Spar. So, Mr. Andreas Dresebner, so the floor is yours. Please tell us more about the experience of Switzerland.
Okay, please, can you open my video? It's closed from your side, from the host side. I don't know why.
Really? Let's try.
Like
now you can you do it now?
Yes, it looks like. Now it's
Yeah.
working. Thank you
Nice
very much.
To see you.
Great, great.
So let me
Good.
share your presentation, yeah?
That's great. I allowed me to show you some general things, what happens in Switzerland, how it's developing, and what's actual about the situation, yes? And then let's go up to some details where we are in detail working. Okay. A good message was on the 18th, really 44 of this month. We have installed in 2023 1,500 megawatts and around the half-time of our nuclear power station with 1,060 megawatts. This was not a small step. It was really growing up. Limitation is the labor at the moment. Before it was with the corona was the limitation of the material side, inverters, modules, but now it's really about, we are really growing up, jumping in the right direction, and you see also the figures, what we have done, please. And on the right side, you see a picture, and this picture is really the Coca-Cola factory called Walserwasser. It's a premium mineral water source, and in that you see a classical installation, which is covered with snow. And the other one, it's a vertical with bifacial modules. A clear answer that you have a solution also in mountain regions, not only for softy Switzerland, also for Armenia, Georgia, and of course for Kyrgyzstan. Okay, let's go. You see the use, sorry, it's in German. I could not translate, it was a little bit short time. The energy use, the consumption, it's going down. And believe me, in Switzerland, we have some electric cars, and we have on the new buildings more than 70% of heat pump. We use more, but that's all, it's more efficient used. It's really happy to tell. This year we have the consumption like we had 20 years ago. As all these discussions to say, oh, it goes electrification, everything is with electrics, we need more electricity. That's not true. We have more, around 1 million people more since 20 years, believe me. Switzerland, we are a 9 million country. A long time between 6 and 7, and now we are 9. We're growing fast, the fastest growing country in Europe, and we still less use it also in the full amount. Okay, what's happened with renewable energy? It looks not that much, but we have an aim, and the aim is 35,000 gigawatts for 2035, and we are still by 5. But we are fast growing, and we have really to be very tough to go up. Why we have this 35,000? We have still around 40% of nuclear power stations, and believe me, they are the oldest in the world. They are safe but old, and we have to stop them as soon as possible. And we have a good chance to arrive this aim. Now let's go. The strategy, it's really important to see that. The funding programs are really provides for a gradual phase out of the nuclear energy, I told you. The package of measure approval by the people and parliament aims to increase energy efficiency, reduce CO2 emission, promote renewable energy, among other things. The aim is to reduce Switzerland's dependence of important fossil fuels. But believe me, we are really an oily country with about heating and, of course, mobility. Unbelievable high. We make us dependent, and not only this last war show us how this dependency is very dangerous for economy and for the people at the end. Overviewing of founding program subsidies from the regions, Kantone. It's the name cantons, cities and municipalities in Switzerland. There are programs for building, mobility, support programs for companies, financial and tax and federal lighthouse projects. You see here another example. It's a hotel up in Lax, on a famous place. You see a very classical building, a modern building with just horizontal and vertical lines, and we install a green roof. It's also a good thing for the building, and we have in winter also a productivity. Okay. Subsidy program for PV production. Oh, a mistake there. Okay. Promotion locally generator operators of system of generate electricity from renewable energy have been benefited from the feed-in tariffs, classical ones, since 2018. And also applied for biomass hydropower and to 10 megawatt geothermal energy and photovoltaics from 100 kilowatt peak. Inclusion in the feed-in tariff supported system limited end of 2022. One of these by the COGFAB was one of the last which we have installed with this program. Now, in addition to the federal government, many municipalities and energy supply companies promote the construction of solar installations. New photovoltaic systems are subsidized through Switzerland via payment around 30%. We call them CLIVE, the small ones, and we call them the GRIVE, the big ones, of supporting. This is a very simple form. They make it really less complicated, that we can have easy finance after some months. This is a kind of a payback after the installation with all the certificates, just to show. On the right side, you see our first vertical installation on an elderly house in the town of Switzerland, Winterthur, and we test here a lot of things I will explain a little bit later shortly. Okay, next go. What is really important, we have the same with wind. Some program, there are also sometimes 60% that support wind. We are not a windy country in classical way, but I will show you then another technology we can work on also under these conditions, which are not like the seaside, very regular, they are unregular, and we have to face that things. But the pilot and demonstration program in Switzerland, it's really good developed. We like to find out what we can do with new technologies or better combinations of the existing technologies, and that I will show you later something. On the right side, you see a project which I promoted together with the Ministry of Energy, Entwicklung und Vergleich Paket. It's Swiss, it's German. No, we used, you see, the classical installation. We have vertical and we have biodiversity islands. We combine the SDG goals, not only focused on renewable energy. Sometimes it's really a cannibalization. They put the black roof, I mean, the PV over the green roof. That's not the solution. We show how it is working properly together, also, of course, in the monetary way. Good. Now we go a little bit, I take a little bit by the hand to show you on which way we are really also working on city solutions and, of course, also in mountain regions. We have a building, we have an environment, we have the rain, strong rainfalls. Remember, Dubai has so much rain than 24 months to have it. We have to face this reality too, and we have to work on the same space. The space is limited. Always, not only in Switzerland, but we have to work more smart. That's the idea. The maintenance and some fact about costs, we have to reduce a little bit the time and some examples. Let's go. I show you a little bit of video, which is done from a company called SolarEdge. I think you know it. It's not a small one. Maybe the voice, it's a little bit hanging, but I hope it's working. This is one of this installation, which I show you together with the Ministry of Energy. It's a little bit too much, I think. Besides, these modules are produced on a modern line. They are heterojunction modules produced on a production line on the Ural, which is, they have decided to install this very modern technology, and they are very useful for bifacial use. And we combine it, urban gardening, regards, bees, bee hotel, very busy. We test wood against steel footprint. And we do always, since 12 years, we work together with the same departments of the University of Applied Science.
Andreas, when the video is on, we cannot hear you. Your voice, yeah. I don't know, something happened.
Okay, I think we, yeah, now it's working.
Can...
Yes. Okay, it's not really proper working, sorry, yeah.
We switch to the next slide.
Yeah, I will explain shortly. Yeah, go to the next slide. Yeah. Good. Just to explain a little bit what we have done on that roof. We have a building and we cool down, no joke, we cool down with the right green roof, the building. And from, you see here, from 100 degrees to 30 degrees, it's not a joke. And we installed and worked together with this not cheap technology from SolarEdge with optimizers, but for the vertical installation, it's the right answer. We have a cooling effect in the summer, protection, the waterproofing. We can use the space also for urban gardening, and we can also handle the meteoric water. which remember again, Dubai in March and in April has a big problem, but not only there. We have more and more the same problem from Buenos Aires to Vladivostok. Okay, let's go. Then we have environment, the urban heat island effect, evaporation and plant transpiration. It's not jokey. It's not something nice. It is really unbelievable working. And we have the Spong effect, the Spong city. We have to store water. And we really work also against the desertification of the cities when we combine it more clever. Please. Just to explain shortly how it is working, we have as example 1200 milliliter per year in Winterthur, and 75% with this very simple installation we could transpirate on the same space. We can make it to 100%, no problem, but it's a question of the heaviness of the roof. The rest you see it here, and we can work here also easily. Okay. Yes, we have sometimes snow in Zurich, 3 days per year maybe, but you see the classical installation against the vertical ones, and no joke, we have more and more Sahara dust in middle of Europe, also in Switzerland, of course. And this is, we have water, we can clean it, no problem, but it's labor and it's costly, and it reduces the production. That's true. Okay. We do it not always properly. We do really bad roofs. A lot of they are brown in summer. We have not to go to detail, but they are looking really not good. And we have to focus on the quality too, also in Switzerland. Yes. Then another thing, we have not to produce to the kilowatt just for the produced kilowatt. We have to face us more and more to the consumption when we produce it. You see the price in Leipzig on a typical day in middle of Europe. Is this stock is not stock exchange? It's not exchange is not only for for Germany. It is really for the European market. And you see the price on the daytime when the price is jumping or falling. And you see on the right side the irradiation. You see a classical beef production south oriented with angle to south with 30 or 20 degrees or less. And then the red one, this is the bifacial installation. You can easily choose which one is closer to the consumption, and this is important. We have to face this reality. This is a billionary problem in Germany, as example. We have in Switzerland our hydro pump stations. We can pump up when we have an overproduction, but it's also a question of the grid. Sometimes we have not the size of the grid to pump up. Then also wind. You see solar and wind are complementary across season. Yes, it is true. You see the months and you see wind and you see solar would be perfect partners. Please touch the right picture. Yes. This is a little installation with a little turbine. You see 6-blader. This is not common. It's very efficient, working from less than 1 meter and productive with 2 meters per second. This is nearly nothing. Not very productive, you know. The double of wind speed means 8 times more productivity. But this is a good solution. Let's go further. No. Yes, you see sometimes the maintenance. We think also in future that we have to cut labor. It's costly, not only in Switzerland. We have this is an adapted one. We create a new one together with the innovation agency InnoSwiss in the state one in Switzerland and the University of Applied Science to create that. We have the first women or first man on the roof, means the robot, to cut, but he has also a camera and he is not only and also an infrared camera to look about the problems. You see where we are working. Let's go. Some examples. The hotel, which you see the first pictures, it's looking not bad with the vertical installation. Let's go. The bird view or drone view on the beginning when it was not that much green, but you see where is the black. It's not heating. This is the reflection. No, it's okay. Then we see we work with the good reflection. We try here something, always a little bit research on the thing. Let's go, yes. Then you see the same picture than on the beginning. with the classical installation and our vertical one. Yes, go to the big pictures shortly. And then next. Also on a skiing place in Davos. And the newest one, which we are working these days, it's again in Flims on a cable car station, the valley station and the middle station. Also, we can work a little bit more designy, black, also the modules, the frame, everything. And now we go to the CIS region. I have one picture. Can you touch the first picture and try? Maybe it's working. No. Yes, try. This is not Switzerland. This is a school in Kyrgyzstan. You see, we install it on the vertical ones and the classical ones. It's a little bit brown if it was dry at the moment, and the roof is minimalized. But the good thing is, they told me it's the warmest room in winter and the coolest room in summer. The green stuff can do a little job, but an important job, and save your roof. Believe me, this piece will live longer than the rest, the naked roof beside. This the why they decide to make the whole roof green now. Not about the green, about to save the building and cool or warm up your rooms. It can be a good combination, and it's not fancy about biodiversity, which is also a very important SDG goal. Okay, on the right side, we make tests in Switzerland. We see again with the woody one. This is Robinia acatifolia. This is the only in Europe growing plant which is so resist like tick and will live as long as the installation is existing. It means over 30 years is no problem with the wood in the soil. Okay, now back to the big frame, back to renewable energies in Switzerland. Why? We have a very important we have to vote the 9th of June. You know, Switzerland with the direct democracy, there is a referendum. We have to vote and to fight for this good frame solution about the next slide, please, about the energy independence. And we have the starting position. We have to face our island in the middle of Europe, but we have to be responsible for our part. And it is really right. We have more and more, I told you, electric vehicles, heat pump, and we have to ensure we have no oil, we have no gas. We have to focus completely, really, on, we have no uranium. We have to focus really on electricity, and there we have a chance. The proposal is really to go consider the independence of electric supply, the building codes, founding instruments, and new arrangements for producing, transport, and consuming electricity. You can read it or later. I will not bother you with them things. We have 16 hydropower plants, and this is like our battery. We can use it. We have not to pump in the night nuclear power from France. We can pump through the day our overproduction of the PV or wind production, and then we use it. As example, this winter, we had since the first many years, first time we have not to import, we could export and save our hydro pump stations for the summertime or not use it for pumping if the renewable energy could produce. Of course, we had a warm winter, we had a very rainy or snowy winter, that's true, but still we have done our job slowly and we have to be faster. Let's go. Yes, we have to fight about political ideas. It means climate, safe, all the environmental things. This is a typical advertisement for the yes to this new frame law. Okay. One point out of this is really important about self-consumption. You see, 80% of our installations are on roof, if we have enough roofs and not that much space, why we are not landscape working. You see here two things. We have two opportunities, much better when we have this law, that we can organize in a quarter or in a village or on a industry zone to produce on one roof or one place a wind turbine, or on one roof a lot of solar. We can hang on the rest in, and we can do this on two ways. This is the main idea of these pictures. We can make one point and arrange us beside individual with the neighbors or with the partners, or we can do it still on a way that we just count it virtually. This is the main thing of this thing. Okay, just say thank you to the partners I had, and at the end, let's go to the last. Thank you very much to have interest. You see here a typical roof in the middle of Zurich with a friend of which are working together. Yes, thank you very much, and I hope I can give you some inspiration, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dresibner, and it's amazing that Switzerland advancing on this solar and wind energy, and we hope that our institute will be sharing Switzerland's experience with other countries, specifically Kyrgyzstan. And now we will move to Georgia's experience. Mr. George Kekelidze joined us today from Tbilisi. So he's the head of Eurosolar Georgia and executive director of the International Innovative Technologies in Georgia. His company develops and also installs new renewable energy plants and worked in many countries. So Mr. Kekelidze, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Chulpan. My name is George, and we are disciples of the two great people. First was Hermann Scheer, who was the gentleman who created the first law of renewable energy. This is the European Association of Renewable Energy, Eurosolar, which was created in Bonn in 1988. So we are the oldest association of renewable energy in Europe. And I have the honor to be the chairman of several sections. Section in Russia, which was very successful until the certain events, section in Georgia. We are now in process of establishing section in Uzbekistan, and in future we are also thinking of section of Kyrgyzstan as well. So Mr. Hermann Scheer was also the founder of the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA in Abu Dhabi. And we continue to cooperate with IRENA quite on a short note basis. That's shortly about us. Also important is that our chairman, for example, in Russia for 10 years was Mr. Zhores Alferov, who was academician and Nobel Prize winner. So we have the specific attitude to look at the renewable energy, which is technological angle. Now, talking about Georgia and in general, I would say the question is, what can we contribute to your projects in Kyrgyzstan, and how we can be of use, and how we can look at the Georgian experience. I think going back to what Mr. Gianluca Sambucini has talked about, especially about climate change mitigation and job creation, and some important other factors that are normally spoken about renewable energy, I would like to emphasize that probably our job is to look at it from the angle of non-profit organizations, which we are, and from the angle of universities, technical universities, because here we can have the maximum contribution. And I tell you why. For example, when you talk about the big, large projects in renewable energy, and we are seeing now that Germany, for example, is establishing and putting together 1 gigawatt a month of solar installations. That's a great figure. We are seeing the program in Uzbekistan, where we have by President of Uzbekistan declared 8 gigawatts in solar and 8 gigawatts in wind. This is big projects. But in the end of the day, in my humble opinion, what happens is the large corporations are coming and they build this certain larger solar parks and wind parks, and they build it with their own facilities, normally sometimes involving in a very small, let's say, in a very small capacity, the local companies, because the the project is done, then they are going away, and the job creation in the country does not happen. The second thing is that also the technical progress that always was big part of renewable energy is possible when you have something happening in the university, and then this is exactly then going to be implemented in the production. But then you have to have the production in the country. But what we are seeing today, for example, for the solar modules, is prices are going down. There are the gigawatt factories, and everything is done somewhere in China. Even European large manufacturers are basically dead, and the production of solar panels is moving to the United States. So when we looked at all this, we said, okay, I mean, what we should do is we should act in certain directions. And one of these directions is educational projects, same as Cholpan has said. We are trying to implement the projects in the colleges and also in the universities. I'm very glad that today we have here also the Georgian Technical University, for example, Ms. Lena Shatikashvili, who is not only developing the university programs, but also developing the college programs. And then together with the Department of Education, with Ministry of Education, with the Skills Agency, you can then implement this largely. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to attract also some other sources of financing for this. For example, here we also have representatives of German fund, which is a good partner of ours, Eberhard Schock Foundation, that are developing together with us several specialities. The specialities of solar installers. And in July, for example, this year in the city of Poti, we're going to train the trainer center, where the teachers of the colleges will be trained from different parts of Georgia, and then they will go back to their regions and they will train the local students. And then these students will have the possibility to work, and our job is to give them maybe the initial possibilities to find these jobs. So you follow from the college to the job creation and giving them the opportunity with the materials and everything to complete this job. This is something that non-profit organizations can do easily with different support, and I'm sure that UNICEF and some other organizations can do it. We, for example, cooperate with UNDP in this regard, and I hope that we can meet sometime with Mr. Sabuccini, maybe on Intersolar, if you will be there in Munich or somewhere else, and develop more direct programs, or in Kyrgyzstan for the next project. So this is one area which I think is very important, the area of education. And then if we train the good young people, then they will not have to leave to Greece or to some other places to work in the different low-paid jobs, but they can really enjoy their own results. And this is how you change the society, basically. This is how you create the positive effect and change the quality of the life of people. This is what we are trying to follow. So this is one area. Another area is the pure scientific instruments. I mean, Andreas, normally I meet Andreas on the top of the roofs where we do something together, but today is a different day. And this project that he has shown also we did in several countries on the vertical installations. But what is important is Switzerland, at least it used to be the technological country in solar. Now less, because some large companies has closed down because of the Chinese competition. But still, there are some centers like ETH, like ZAW, like SGIM, and Switzerland also became part of project Horizon. And here, I think role of Georgia could be that Georgia can be the let's say, intermediate between Switzerland and Kyrgyzstan to get the financing for the implementation projects, where you minimize the implementation gap. You develop something in the high technology and you bring it over. We, as Georgian universities, can work with the Kyrgyz universities, and we can also work with the European universities because Georgia is a country associated with Europe. So I think this is a very important aspect that we can use together. I can see there are colleagues from mechanical department of one of the universities and some other interesting colleagues in science. So this is something that we could develop together. And the last probably part is, let's say, developing our potential to work with the large companies. For example, in Uzbekistan, and I would like to invite everybody to a large exhibition in Uzbekistan, which will happening in 14th to 16th of May. We as a Georgian company are present there, and we are discussing now with different ministries and also large companies like Mazda Aqua Power and some others to create the training center for installers in Uzbekistan. And we could do the same thing in Kyrgyzstan, also bringing the industry leaders together with such organizations as your organization, Chulpan, or for example, joining forces together with Mr. Sambucini. We can act as, let's say, intermediate interfaces, bringing together the industry and universities and non-profit organizations and creating more funding opportunities and also technological aspects here. I think this is what we can do. Also, probably our experience in Georgia in hydro would be interesting because solar in Georgia is not so much developed, but one important aspect is net metering projects. Well, in Kyrgyzstan, you have a lot of land. In Georgia, you don't have a lot of land. It's a small country. But net metering is a system where small and medium-sized companies can develop the solar projects and they can exchange the commercial tariff, which is quite high, up to 12 cents, by the solar installation. And this experience we could bring over to Kyrgyzstan maybe, and to make sure that, for example, legislation in Kyrgyzstan also follows this road. The only aspect of developing solar in Georgia was net metering projects. From zero, it went up to 80 megawatt within 1.5 years. And all this 80 megawatt basically is consisting of the smaller projects of 100 to 500 kilowatts, which is important. So you have really decentralized, disseminated projects on the level of small and medium-sized enterprises. And the larger projects, well, there are many countries that you can have experience from that for future. So I think I used my 12 minutes. But these are the main aspects that I think we could be useful for your cooperation between Switzerland and Kyrgyzstan, and putting Georgia as an example to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kikalizadze. I really appreciate your remarks about education, because in many countries, in developing countries, including Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, the main problem is shortage of specialists and lack of knowledge, lack of skills. So to promote renewable energy, I think we need to give knowledge and skills. So what you said, it's really important. So the Bulan Institute also, we plan to raise awareness in Kyrgyzstan. Also, we plan capacity building of local specialists, and not only specialists, but future specialists, young people, students of vocational students and universities as well. So definitely we will work together in the future. Thank you very much. So our next speaker is one of the leading experts on green energy in Kyrgyzstan. Ms. Kunduz Kirbashova has been actively advocating for energy transition and also doing concrete work on the ground. So, for example, she assisted the Kyrgyz government to create the Green Fund, and also fought for better tax regulations for the equipment for green projects. Currently, Kunduz is a head of Association of Renewable Energy Plants in Kyrgyzstan. She is also founder of the company Wind System. And Kunduz brought several projects to Kyrgyzstan, green projects, and how now, for example, solar plant and wind plant, both of them have been constructed in the Usyk region in Kyrgyzstan. So Ms. Kurbasheva, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining. And let me share your presentation.
Надеюсь, меня слышно?
Yes, yes, please.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники.
Hello, everyone.
Я хочу поблагодарить Институт Булан за
I also would like to thank Bulan Institute for the invitation.
выступления предыдущих спикеров.
I was excited listening to previous presentations, and later I hope I can ask questions. There are some areas of interest in terms of Kyrgyzstan. Briefly, let me share the status of the situation in energy sector in Kyrgyzstan and including on renewables in Kyrgyzstan. I'm a head of an association on renewables. Today, we have more than 200 companies in the country engaged in this sector. These are hydro energy up to 30 megawatts, solar and wind stations. Within the last 3 years, we have really a booming, I would say, as a breakthrough, both on a policy level and technologies. Recently, we have adopted another new law to be signed by the president soon after approving by the parliament on renewables. Again, next slide, please. Green energy. Energy sector of the Kyrgyz Republic is a key sector in country's development, followed by the increase of the population, well-being, and the economic growth. There is a high demand to energy. Energy consumption is much higher in terms of demand than the production. And unfortunately, we have to import energy for many years from our neighboring countries. However, in 2023, energy efficiency was 3.5 billion deficiency in terms of, so and this year it will increase again in terms of energy deficiency. It means we have to deal with our neighboring countries, followed by an increase in the number of our population. If we compare with 2010, we have an increase of the population up to 54%. Normally, ordinary households are the main consumers, whereas the energy sector is considered less consuming. Today, the energy sector faces a real challenge to meet the demand for energy, which is leveled up, in other words. So when we are expecting a forecast an increase up to 30% in energy demand or the consumption. And this is a strong argument towards diversification. Energy generation in Kyrgyzstan largely depends on water resources and hydro energy, up to 90%, 90. But due to climate change, climate impact, river basins changes, which is typical not only for Kyrgyzstan, but also in Central Asia, we feel the climate change. In our opinion, we should not rely only on one source of energy, I mean the hydro energy. We must develop other renewables, be it solar, wind, and small hydro biomass energy sources ought to be developed.
Хочу сказать, что наша законодательная база не предусматривала до 2020 года, да, все ввозимое оборудование Кыргызской
One of the
Республики.
progress we achieved is that up before 2020, any imported technologies or equipment was subjected to taxations and custom declarations and custom fees. We've been appealing to the government, negotiating with them. Thank God they have listened to us. So today we have 80 items or commodities are exempted as part of renewables, exempted from taxes and VAT. Few words about our association. Our foundation and talking about NDCs, national determined contributions. Yes, we have a national program on SDG and other activities in terms of SDG 7 and 12. Ensures, talking about two goals, ensure universal access and ensure sustainable production. And the previous speaker was excellently mentioned that the demand has also to be met. In terms of support of green initiatives, next slide, please. Jointly with IRENA, Renewable Energy Association, we have signed an agreement ratified by the National Parliament, and last year the Ministry of Energy has signed a number of agreements during COP in Dubai, sorry. Among regulatory or legal actions or policy actions, we have created a one-stop shop for green energy and renewables. There is a high demand, of course, for energy. Demand is increasing from year to year. Among challenges, of course, outdated infrastructure and so on. Most equipment and hydro plants, most hydro plants were constructed during Soviet times, and of course there's outdated old poor equipment and infrastructure, of course, and no new equipment or the facilities were constructed since then. I mean, large scale. Bishkek itself, now about Bishkek in terms of energy generation. Bishkek as a city is polluted because of the coal station operation in the city. And unfortunately, we're in the top most polluted countries in terms of index, of pollution index, particularly in wintertime. The Bishkek city, we are among the most polluted cities in the world, unfortunately. And therefore, renewables can replace traditional fossil fuels, and by that to reduce emissions or gas emissions. Another source of pollution, of course, the cars or the vehicles in up to 60% in Bishkek city.
И национальные директивы, органы понимают важность решения.
And Kyrgyzstan is very vulnerable to climate change. There is an understanding and political will, at least, and by that, in line with international trends, the government initiates different programs and projects. And as a part of the green initiatives Irena have mentioned, a study was conducted jointly. We have entered into agreements, contracts, and initiated through the national parliament and so on. I've mentioned about this slide already. Next slide, please. Next slide.
В рамках продолжения. В целях проведения соответствия с нормами принятого закона Кыргызской Республики о возобновляемых источниках энергии очень много разработаны законопроектов, подзаконных актов.
In the line of newly adopted law, we have already developed a number of bylaws and regulatory acts, and in the frame or as a part of reforming the green energy sector, we are working with the Ministry of Energy on tariffication, special tarifications from renewables, generated from renewables. Of course, this is the subject to currency fluctuations and so on. In terms of tariffs, we also, of course, we work on enable population can pay in sums in national currency, but investors, of course, it's clear that we have to return in other currencies. And for that, we will enter into a separate contractor agreement with an investor to have a contract currency as a national currency of Kyrgyzstan, SOM, to be also applied in relation to tariffs. Within our association, we also suggested to have so-called a breakdown or the a breakdown in order to have a leveled in other words, to change the shift or the focus, to have more small companies, of course, to make the tariffs affordable for the population. If we engage larger international companies from China or from other countries, they may potentially create a challenge to local companies also, and with the higher tariffs. And of course, if we engage larger companies, we have to work on decreasing the tariffs, then to focus more on micro generation, so-called. We have a government accelerator group established on the 7th March this year. Our association, a government accelerator program, within that, our association, we can initiate draft laws. We are now grading for small companies. A capacity, renewable energy potential, the wind energy capacity was never started, even since Soviet times. As you see, the annual capacity for solar, wind, and hydro.
Но опять же повторюсь, в связи с изменением климата, в связи с изменением водности рек, надо пересмотреть это, то, что мы во всех отчетах.
As I mentioned, we have 90% is the share of hydro energy, but again, in the light of climate change and abnormal or the weather change, extreme weather changes and decrease of river basins and so on, we have to shift the focus again to renewables. And now the Ministry of Energy initiates the Ministry of Energy of Kyrgyzstan is now working to revise the terms of reference for small hydro plants to be constructed in the past now. So it is a paradigm of the shift again of the focus. And we have to perform more studies as well to use solar stations, biomass, and so on.
исследования, изучения именно потенциал ветра, солнца обязательно нужно провести.
There is a need to perform a study in Kyrgyzstan on solar and wind.
Считаю, что актуальность потеряла, надо еще
In my opinion, the hydro energy,
климата,
again, is less important now. Why? Because of the climate change.
другой расчет.
We have to make other calculations now to identify the capacity, the potential of, as I said, of solar and wind energy.
Вы видите наш этот примерный этот потенциал изучаемый. Это было проведено Министерство энергетики, Кыргызский технический университет.
This research was performed by Kyrgyz Technical University jointly with USAID Research.
Следующий слайд.
Next slide, please.
Это топовые у нас топовые солнечные зоны Кыргызстана. Следующий слайд.
This is the top solar zones. Next slide, please.
Следующий. Здесь топовые ветровые зоны.
Top wind zones on the slide. Next slide, please.
Вот здесь идет, да, сколько от какой топовой точки она находится, сколько километров от.
This is a regional breakdown. Different areas of Kyrgyzstan where we have top wind zones
Поэтому считаю, что
with appropriate mapping. We have rough estimations and calculations, but there is still need to use the windmills for study purposes. Next slide, please.
У нас вот опять же потенциальные наши местности. Я вот подробно об этом останавливаться не буду, потому что
I will skip this slide about the potential.
мы должны все-таки работу в законодательной базе вести, изменения подзаконные акты.
We are now actively working, as I said. I will skip some slides because we're working in relation to, or to develop the policy now, the legislation and so on. And it was mentioned without government support without assistance from the state or the government, we can hardly achieve results. And I'm confident we are quite effective now today. In the past, the priority was given to small hydroelectric stations, but today we all know that there's a shift, as I mentioned earlier. As you see, the work is underway on the implementation of different projects. The construction of small hydroelectric power plants in Ortaköy, as you see, with the different generating capacity.
Пошлин, потому что очень много завозится с третьих стран, как Австрия, Венгрия, Китай. Вы знаете, мы...
By the way, today we had another meeting to exclude from taxation, particularly the taxation of equipment. We have experts from Austria, China, and so on. We are the member of the Eurasian Economic Union, but again, we will have to work and I hope we can exclude from custom fees as well. Next slide.
Следующий слайд. Знаете, у нас есть программа КАСА 1000, которую Кыргызская Республика.
Probably you know the World Bank Finance project CASA 1000, under which we can export energy to neighboring countries. And
многие, наверное, опасаются, что очень много строится малых ГЭС, СЭС и ВЭС, а сколько, да, куда мы лишнюю электроэнергию будем девать? Вопрос экспорта тоже.
There are concerns in Kyrgyzstan. What if we produce more than we will consume? As an example, that through CASA or through this program, we can export energy. And these are the steps we have to take in Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you very much, Kunduz. So, dear colleagues, unfortunately, we run out of time and we need to wrap up our discussion. First, I would like to thank our speakers who joined from Zurich, Geneva, Bishkek, and Tbilisi. And thank you very much for your presentation, insights, and contributing to the rich discussion. We thank also participants who joined from different countries across the globe. And climate change adverse effects are increasing, and one of the urgent tasks is shifting to the renewable energy resources. So the Bulan Institute's climate change and renewable energy program will continue working on the issue